Saint Benedict of Nursia, remembered 11th of July. St. Benedict is most famous for his rule, which became the norm for monastic living throughout Europe. Because of this, he is sometimes called the father of Western monasticism. He is also patron saint of all of Europe. Benedict was born around the year 480. The son of a good Roman family, he was sent to Rome in his later teens to study. He was disappointed by Rome at this time, which was changing from a city that still had vestiges of its old imperial past into the more ramshackle city of the Middle Ages. Disenchanted with his studies in Rome, Benedict left, coming to a land with tall hills. Finding caves overlooking the road, with a lake below, Benedict settled here. He was given a monk's robe by a local monastery, and he lived as a hermit in the caves for 3 years, receiving visits and twice-weekly food deliveries from a nearby monk named Romanus. When the fame of his sanctity spread, monks from one of the many local monasteries came to ask him to be their new abbot. Benedict knew that his lifestyle and outlook were not quite the same as these monks, and refused, saying that they wouldn't get along. However, they eventually persuaded him to become their abbot. His reforming zeal was resisted, however, and an attempt was made to kill him. Reputedly, his drink was poisoned, but when Benedict blessed the drink along with the meal, the cup shattered. He returned to his cave, but again disciples flocked to him, and he founded 12 monasteries, each with 12 monks, with himself in general control of all. Patricians and senators of Rome offered their sons to become monks under his care. Later, disturbed by the intrigues of a neighbouring priest, he left the area, while the 12 monasteries continued in existence. A few disciples followed Benedict south, where he settled on the summit of a hill rising steeply above Cassino, halfway between Rome and Naples, founding the monastery of Monte Cassino. The district was still largely pagan, but the people were converted by his preaching. His sister, St. Scholastica, who came to live nearby as the head of her own nunnery, died shortly before her brother. The only certain date in Benedict's life is given by a visit from the Gothic king Totila, about the year 542. To know about the character of Benedict the man, rather than the image of the saint, we must look to discover it from his rule. The impression given there is of a wise and mature sanctity, authoritative but fatherly, and firm but loving. It is that of a spiritual master, fitted and accustomed to rule and guide others, having himself found his peace in the acceptance of the rule of Christ. Benedict had begun his monastic life as a hermit, but he had come to see the difficulties and spiritual dangers of a solitary life. His rule is concerned with a life spent wholly in community, and among his contributions to the practices of the monastic life, none is more important than his establishment of a full year's probation before joining the order. The spiritual and human counsel given generously throughout the rule is uniquely noteworthy among all the monastic and religious rules of the Middle Ages. Benedict's advice to the abbot and to the cellarer, and his instructions on humility, silence, and obedience have become part of the spiritual treasury of the Church, from which legislators of various institutions have also drawn inspiration. St. Benedict also displayed a spirit of moderation. His monks are allowed clothes to suit whatever climate they live in, sufficient food, with no specified fasting, apart from the times observed by the whole Church, such as Lent, and 7.5 to 8 hours sleep per night. The working day is divided into 3 roughly equal portions: 5 to 6 hours of liturgical and other prayer, 5 hours of manual work, whether domestic, craft, gardening, or field work, and 4 hours reading of the Scriptures and spiritual writings. This balance of prayer, work, and study is another of Benedict's legacies. Benedict, in his life, and the legacy of his rule seems to have mixed understanding with rigidity, an unwavering commitment to a life of faith combined with a deep knowledge of the many and different challenges that such a life faces for each person. His rule on how to order a community of different people so that they can work and live together for a shared goal has been the foundation of many constitutions and organizations, as well as many monasteries. The work done by monks following the rule of St. Benedict, known as Benedictines, to convert, teach, heal, and minister across Europe over the centuries, and still today, led Benedict to be named the patron saint of all Europe. St. Benedict is remembered on the 11th of July.